Well, let's talk about Africa's economy. IMF's most recent economic forecast about the continent, well, sub-Saharan Africa mostly, doesn't look very good. The report, titled Dealing with the Gathering Clouds, reveals Africa is likely to grow at 3.75% this year and 4.25% next year. That's a big drop from the years, the year and its weakest in 6 years. It's a big drop from the previous forecast, of course, and things could get worse according to this report. Well, this year's slump in commodity prices and the end of a flood of cheap dollars is said to be responsible for this forecast, among many other factors. IMF says, quote, the strong growth momentum evident in the region in recent years has now dissipated. Channels TV Business News editor Bosing Amofaye joins me now on Network Africa.
Good afternoon.
I mean, the first thing I'm going to ask you, the strong growth momentum evident in the region in recent years has now dissipated. Yes. I thought Africa was the future. What is this about?
Africa is still the future. If you look at the projections, 4.5, close to 5%, still some good numbers. And that's not extremely bad. However, what the IMF has done is to say, look, the major drivers of Africa's rising story had been those 8 oil-producing, natural resource-rich countries, Nigeria, Angola, you look at South Africa, mining industry, and a few others. You look at Ghana, for example. However, the major hits for commodity prices, oil and gas, solid minerals, have affected Nigeria, affected South Africa. North Africa is looking good. North Africa was not included in that report. However, this weakening and the end of cheap dollar would mean that things would get a little bit topsy-turvy for the continent, and that was the warning. So you're setting the sail and you're looking at the future. Now, what we need to do now is to set the sail in Africa against the winds, the headwinds that we're going to face, so that we'll go through the turbulence. It's like trying to fly through a hurricane.
I know it's a line of thought that you have there, but let me break it in. Please, can you simplify the all going against the tide and what you're really saying in layman's
Because
land?
your revenue is coming down, what you're earning in terms of exports from commodity products are declining very rapidly as well. They're coming at a very low level we haven't seen since 2008, 2009 global markets meltdown. Now, if you look at the developed markets of Asia, Europe, and United States, as soon as we see perhaps some interest rate decisions being taken by the US, by the European Central Bank, and the Bank of England and the rest, you begin to see how this will also impact on Africa, perhaps to the positive side. However, the report says, look, Africa needs to prepare perhaps for a long walk in the dark, at which commodity prices are at lowest level. Perhaps it's going to be for a year, it's been for a year, they're going for 2 years, perhaps for 3 years. Perhaps this is a major correction that will take many years to come to recover. So we need to plan at a different level. And this report also provided some level of advice for African leaders that we should focus more on domestic revenue. The tax basket in Nigeria is very, very small. What we can generate in Nigeria is far beyond what we are currently bringing into the tax dragnet. So Nigeria still has a lot of room to bring in more tax. However, how does Nigeria spend this money to engineer growth and keep even that 4.5% growth projection on track remains a really key issue for the leaders who are in charge of administration. However, you also found, however, Ivory Coast being a major poster boy for growth in West Africa and in Africa sub-Saharan. The question is, what is working for Côte d'Ivoire that we are not seeing?
They're not part of the sub-Saharan oil producing.
Well, definitely. Now you're looking at this nation being agri-resource based, a major outpost for France and its companies in West Africa, a major initiative taking place between Morocco and Morocco looking now more to West Africa, French-speaking countries, because there is the slowdown and the troubles with the economic in Europe. So the Moroccans, and I spoke with a former trade and investment minister of Morocco about 2 years ago in London, and she told me they're doing more with West Africa, French-speaking countries. The former minister for Africa, for the United Kingdom, and I also spoke with him about a year ago, and he's also talking about the UK expanding its relationship, trade relations with French-speaking West Africa as well. So right now it looks like French-speaking countries in Africa as a whole are beginning to be the focus for major Western European developed markets. And the rest of us who are English-speaking, let me put it that way, will have to think very quickly what makes these countries attractive and as a piece of destination. But you can't write off Nigeria anyhow. Now let's go back to the top of the part. You can't write off Nigeria. Whatever oil price you're looking at, Nigeria is still a major game changer for a number of reasons. We have the demography, we have the middle and the lower class, we have the upper class, we have a number of things that go well for us. How we quickly package them together and realign our economic policies from a strategic point of view. And I think I'm being encouraged a little bit by what I'm beginning to hear from the news cycle, that we're working on a multi-year budgetary process that has 2 years, yes, it's got multiple, that will help us to have a bit of a medium to long-term look, rather than this piecemeal approach, what you call fast food budgeting process that we've run, in which in the last 4 or 5 years, we no longer run 9 months, we're now overlapping year by year.
That's right.
And we've never had any performance on the table to show what we have done and what we haven't done. These are some of the issues that are before us to take care of, not just from a Nigerian point of view, but from a number of other African countries. South Africa will have to do a lot of rethinking.
Look at all the crises going on in that country.
South Africa is really under stress. Ghana is really under stress as well. Kenya has its own issue as well.
But it looks like, you know, Kenya looks, that's the word, a little bit stable.
A bit of issues from the global tourism, whatever, is affecting Kenya as well. Currency is also there. Ghana is doing, Kenya is doing a little bit to the upside, but the currency is an issue. You're not earning as much. Tourism industry is affected. And it looks like folks are going back to the northern part of the continent. Perhaps they're beginning to see the dividend of the Arab Spring in North Africa between Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, and Egypt. Egypt is beginning to look like they have actually turned the corner and begin to start outpacing the rest of the sub-Saharan Africa. Right now, we need to find what is working for these folks in North Africa and find how we can also go back to the drawing board and pace up.
Finally, the two main things you said, find a way to tap into our tax system, is that what you said?
Yes,
and also find a way also to budget ahead and stop doing this piecemeal and fast food budgetary
process. Yeah, we need not fast food.
Bosing Omofaye, his channel to you is business editor. Always a pleasure to have you on Network.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, that's where we end the show today. Thank you so much for watching Network Africa. I am Adeshawa Josh, and I'll see you tomorrow.